one shot at a time.
Welcome back to the Enjoy the Walk podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We had FedEx Cup playoffs in our backyard. I was lucky enough to go and see it for myself. Shout out to Boston Scott, Steve Hoffman, Sebastian Munoz for getting us the plug, the ticket into the Sunday round at the BMW Championship at Caves Valley up in Owings Mills. Incredible event there. Awesome venue. We'll dive into the course layout. We'll dive into probably the playoff of the year, I think, without a doubt. Maybe the playoff of the last 10 years. I can't remember a playoff, Dante, that put more heroics and theatrics into a final Sunday like this one. So excited to dive in, man. You got to watch it on TV and even still thought it was incredible. So I'm really interested to see kind of how we play off of what we remember TV versus being there, and how that kind of plays.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing was I turned on the TV right around the end of it. I didn't really catch the tournament at all. And the only thing that I actually caught on television or any action of the tournament itself was the playoff as it started. And I kind of just glued my ass to the seat and didn't move. Like I had like all this stuff I had to take care of. And I was like in the middle of it. And next thing I know, I just stopped doing what I was doing and immediately just like stared at the TV and didn't move for the duration of the time. And I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything just because after just watching like I would say the first two holes, Bryson's bombing it way by him, Cantlay gets himself in some tricky trouble on the first playoff hole, makes the putt when he actually has to. Then they go back and do it again. And it was pretty much, I think, I'm trying to remember. I think the second one, they both hit it on the green and two putted their way, right?
Yeah, well, it was crazy too, right? Like the way you mentioned that, and we'll dive into it. I want to dive into a little bit of the kind of overall experience of how I saw the course first before we dive into that playoff. But they both struggled at different, points during that playoff, and they both found a way to make things happen to stay alive. Both of them were on the ropes at different points too. So we'll definitely dive into that. I mean, I want to just dive into, first off the overall venue, and talk about how I kind of saw it from walking into the event.
Yeah. What was your strategy like going into the event? Like, how'd you want to experience your time? Because I know like that's what I love about golf too is when you go, and it's not like when you go to any arena sports game and everybody sits in the seat and they see the same game.
Yeah.
When you go to a golf event, everybody sees something completely different depending on how you tackle that event. So I mean, like, what did you have a strategy going into it? I mean, what?
Well, so I definitely did. Tee times on Sunday started at 7:30. Now there were a lot of great names going off early, but I had a 2.5 hour drive. So I didn't want to wake up at, before sunrise and get there and then spend all day there and then try and outlast the sun pretty much. And
next thing you know, it's like noon, 1 o'clock, and you're shot.
And you're shot. Exactly. So that's actually what time I got there. I got there right around 1 o'clock, as the leaders were starting to tee off. With that being said, I did miss big names like Cam Champ. I missed Kevin Kisner, Phil Mickelson. So I did miss a couple of those guys. Unfortunately, Jordan Spieth too. Some of the guys that I probably really would have liked to see just were off the course by the time I got there. But I got to see the leaders. I got to see them tee off, and that was kind of my plan. So I got there. My first, initial spot was like, all right, let's go watch these guys warm up. Tried to get to the range to see Bryson, Cantlay, Rory. And actually, as I got to the range, Rory was just walking off, so I didn't get to see him hit any balls. But I got to watch Abe Answer hit some balls. I got to watch Xander Schauffele, who actually played earlier that morning, kind of come back to the range and try and work on some things. So that was cool too, seeing him work on the range at the same time as these leaders were going off.
What was your experience with like the range? Because I know a lot of people say like, right, you have all these different avenues you can take on when you want to go to a course and see what you want to see, right? You can follow a player, you can walk every hole, you can just post up at a couple of group of holes, but a lot of people now are telling you to go to the range, like just go sit back and just watch these guys in the rain. Like now, from what I'm hearing, is that really as hyped up it's supposed like as they're saying the
Here was
range? Like
my
what?
funny experience. Obviously, like I said, the last two groups were there. So Abe Answer was hitting balls, DeChambeau was hitting balls, Cantlay was hitting balls, and Cantlay was the farthest left. And as I turned the corner, because that's where I really came up to the range, was the left hand side. Cantlay was hitting balls, and there really wasn't a lot of people around Cantlay. And so I kind of just was able to walk right up to the fence line and take some videos of him hitting balls. And let me just tell you, before I even dive any further into my range experience, how just accurate this dude is with every club he pulls out of his bag. They're not on like maybe a draw line or a cut line. He hits some of the straightest shots I've seen out of any tour pro. That's what I picked up from Cantlay right away. Watched him hit 3 or 4 shots, and these balls were just on ropes. I mean, deadline ropes. So right off the bat, I was like, all right, Cantlay's dialed. Cantlay could contend today. And then as I went to walk down the rest of the range, at the end, I knew Bryson was down there somewhere. But let me tell you, it was almost like Tiger-esque effect. It was 20, 30 deep around Bryson, watching him hit balls. And like I said, I walked right behind Cantlay and barely anybody was there. The entire focus was at the right end of the range where Bryson was hitting balls. It was incredible how many people were stacked up watching this man hit range balls.
And I'm assuming he probably had driver in hand.
This was the best part. So he was going back and forth between driver and then iron and then driver and then iron. Every time he put the driver back in the bag, boo. And every time he went to put a hand on it, yeah. I mean, it was hilarious how much crowd reaction he was getting out of just pulling one club either in and out of the bag. It was wild. And you didn't even have to be close to him to know what club he was going to pull out of the bag. It was all fan reaction. And then the video I sent you was pretty evident. People were just enamored by how hard he was hitting the driver. And this was the first time I got to see Bryson, post yoke, I guess you could call it, because I got to watch him down at the Players Championship in 2019, I believe it was, right before the pandemic kind of came through. So it was down at the Players, got to watch him play. And obviously he still hit it longer then, but he wasn't. I will tell you this, the ball coming off his driver compared to Patrick Cantlay or Abe Answer or even Rory, it sounds different. It's inexplainable. I don't really know what to pinpoint it as what it sounds different, but it just pierces through the air different than you've really heard any other golf ball come off a driver before. It's incredibly impressive.
So the hype is real when it comes to Bryson's.
I would say, so here's my
driver.
thing. I would say ball speed, yes. He doesn't look that massive. Like, right. Like they're making this thing, like he put on like so much weight. I think he's already thinned out of a little bit of it because he doesn't look that massive. I was
going to make that comment because I was watching him on TV and I was like, man, he looks a lot thinner. Remember like a year and a half ago, he got just absolutely massive, like no neck Bryson. Right? Like, I mean, he had that one photo where he was like walking through and like with the collar and his how wide he was and how much mass he was putting on, he was huge. Like, and I'm sitting there looking at him and I said, yo, I think he's happy where he's at with his speed. He developed that. Now he's cutting back up again.
He is. He definitely is.
Kind of like the Bryson, the OG Bryson, physique. Just like this golfer, right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't look like a linebacker anymore. He's just coming he's like, that's a guy walking down the street. He's like, he probably plays golf.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. And I think what was really cool to see too, in his iron swings, in his driver swings, and we'll get into his putting later, where I think his putting downfall is, but his breathing routine was what really like kind of captured me and was like, all right, that's what he's doing different right now than everybody else. He's taking a lot of short but deep, like inhale and exhales to really like, I guess, get his heart rate going, get his like adrenaline going to hit these long drives. That's what I saw that just completely blew me away. And it's on every swing. It's not just on the long drives.
That's funny that you say that and kind of like perspective on that because I was told too once when I'm over the ball, take a nice deep breath
Uh-huh.
and like and then exhale. It relaxes your body. So the nerves are out, the tension's out. So when you take it back, you're just fluid.
Yeah.
Which because in order to hit the long ball, you need speed. It's kind of like slow is smooth and smooth is fast from the Mark Wahlberg movie Shooter. He's
Yes.
teaching them like in order to like you want to be slow, you want to be smooth, but you want to be fast. And that's what I so that's I do notice like a lot of these pros now, they are very like down to the T as when they're breathing. It's insane.
Yeah, it was definitely something, when you get to see these players up close, it's definitely something you get to realize when you're there in person versus just kind of seeing it on TV. You don't get to see a lot of their pre-shot routines. You just kind of get the real quick snapshot of them taking their swing. So that was definitely something I realized, whether it was him, whether it was different guys over putts, even short game shots. All these pros have such a unique breathing routine, and all of it boils down to how have they figured out to calm their nerves to hit the perfect shot in the right time. And I think that was something that I even told my dad when I was driving home. That was one thing that I realized. I was like, man, I could really gain something from that, of
You
learning
could
some
really
breathing techniques.
I mean, it even kind of goes back to, going back into like the gym or working out or doing yoga is like make sure you're regulating your breathing, your breath, and because, tensing up isn't going to get you the full effects of
Yeah,
what you're trying to do. Or if you're trying to push out weight, heavy weight, make sure that you exhale and not. It's insane how effective just breathing and taking a simple breath is. You'd be like, oh, well, it's just breathing. Well, no, like you breathing like the correct proper way within the activity or the sport that you were doing is going to benefit you greatly for the outcome that you're looking for. It's insane.
absolutely. And so, I mean, right off the bat, that was kind of something, even 3 or 4 holes in, I noticed, and I was like, man, I'm gonna look out for that the rest of the day, because I think I see it, but I want to confirm that I'm seeing it. And the more you looked for it, the more I saw it. Every pro had some sort of breathing mechanism that they were using on full shots or putts or whatever. And that was really cool to see. And so yeah, so that's, that was my range experience. I saw Bryson getting hyped and the fans absolutely loving it. And the fans did not disappoint the rest of the day. As loud as they were around the range, they were that loud on every tee shot, on every hole. Even if you were 4 or 5 holes away, the focus was on that Cantlay DeChambeau group, especially as the day ran on. They kind of separated themselves from the field, obviously getting to 27 under. Late in the day, they were 4 strokes clear of the lead by the time they got to like 13 or 14. So basically, everyone had kind of, if you weren't following what I would call a killer pairing of Sergio Garcia and John Rahm, if you weren't following those guys, or if you weren't following the Rory McIlroy group, which had a ton of early followers because people thought he could have made a push, everyone was circling back to watch that DeChambeau Cantlay, because it turned into a prize fight at the end. Really, it did. I mean, back and forth between the two guys, but it was crazy to watch those two duke it out. But early on, I went from the range off to the first tee, watched the leaders tee off, and then tried to follow Rory for about 3 or 4 holes. And I think Rory might be the most underrated yoked player out there right now. He looks just like a powerhouse right now. He's still got that classic Rory strut that makes him look like the cockiest mother effer on the golf course. I mean, chest out, just strutting his stuff. He didn't bring his best stuff, yes, on Sunday, but I mean, from a look perspective, boy, does he look good right now.
So he's that yoked, I guess you could say, or that in shape.
Dude, I'm telling you what,
In
I
person.
think from an all-around athletic perspective, you could go put Rory McIlroy, I think on a football pitch. You could go put Rory McIlroy probably in the rugby sevens. I think he could compete in a rugby sevens. I mean, he looks sturdy. Like, legs look fit, upper body looks sturdy. He just looks good. And I think, people always knock Rory for, maybe being a little bit past his prime and missing his chances. I think Rory's still got a good 8 to 10 years left in him if he stays as fit as he is right now.
I'm sure. I mean, these guys are so intact with their diet and their regimen and their workout routines. I mean, it's a full-fledged job. It ain't no hobby, as some like to say. It's crazy how much they're putting into it, and that's kind of like, we go back and forth on that, like the whole distance debate. Like the golf's really, it's not the hobby that some of these guys got lucky into and struck gold and were able to win some, big prize funds.
Mhm.
I mean, these guys are coming out and they're putting everything that they have into it. I mean, they are becoming athletes, and it's not like, you go back to the distance debate. It's not because yeah, they hit it far. It's because they're putting in the work and they're studying and they're exercising the muscles and eating the right foods in order to give them the best performance when they step it onto the first tee.
No, absolutely. And I think, when you talk about that kind of focus on optimizing every last ounce, one guy that I was just absolutely kind of shocked with, I know everyone talks about how long he is for his stature. Abraham Answer, he pummels the ball for as short as he is. And when I say short, I'm like shocked at not only how short, but like I felt like if the wind blew at Caves Valley the wrong way, it would take him off the golf course. He's
We're
so
talking
skinny.
like
He's
we're
not
talking Dante
meaty.
short then.
We're talking Dante Short, and we're talking like string bean. I mean, like clothes could have been falling off of him. He's that skinny. It amazes me the power he puts behind the ball for how tiny he is. But when you talk about pound for pound, one of the best, I think, hitters on tour, Abe Answer's your number one guy. And accuracy, some of the wedge shots and iron shots he was hitting, they never left the pin. He was fun to watch, and one of those kind of underrated guys who, I'm not going to lie, I didn't expect to really enjoy watching because I just kind of forgot he was there. He was kind of one of the mundane guys, even though he was T2, T3. But boy, he was fun to watch.
Yeah, that's see. I always like, power with my short people over here, my short guys, all my shorter players, because, and that's what's great about golf. It's not like certain sports where, unfortunately you have to be a certain height or a certain size. Like, I mean, look at, you got Rory, who's, he's 5'7". He's on the shorter side, but he's like massive. And then you got like kind of like DJ, who's like this tall, lanky string bean dude that just produces all this speed. And you got Bryson, who's a decent size, but just straight up fit and doing everything. And you got guys like Abe Answer and Brian Harmon. Like, I love watching Brian Harmon because we're the same height, like same stature, and I just love watching him play because, that's someone of my size, to where like, oh, I can really emulate that guy and copy kind of like what he's doing, even though he's a lefty. But I love to see it, and that's awesome to see. Like, these guys can still get after it. Don't matter like the size that they are.
No, for sure. And it's like, it was one of those things too, where Caves Valley made everybody look small this weekend. Like the undulation on this course, the kind of grand elevation change that was at this place was bar none. I mean, it definitely stacked up there with maybe top 3 courses as far as elevation change that I've ever gotten to walk. Baltimore golf is just different, man. When you get into the foothills of like the Baltimore metro area, the Owings Mills area, Reisterstown, even Baltimore Country Club, the East Course, where they've held a couple amateur events. They've held the PGA back in like 1928. They held the Big Ten Championships there. They've held NCAA championships at Baltimore Country Club. Baltimore, like suburb golf, is just in such grand mountains that it amazes me the challenge that should have been there for these guys, and then how low the guys took it this week. Like it was an incredible contrast to, I think, a lot of the golf courses that I play down here and like the Eastern Shore that are pretty flat. Even some of the courses, I mean, from what I understand and been there once or twice, Running Deer's not that crazily undulated. It's kind of flatter than most. It's still got some hills.
It's undulated by manpower.
Correct.
It's not undulated by the terrain of the area, because I mean, at that point you're just getting closer and closer to the shore and to the beach, and it's just flat walking out into the water. The course is designed to have undulation. You're not building a course within the hills.
100%. And it's just something where, like, I don't know if you saw it from the TV perspective, but this, like, some of these holes, and not mostly the back nine, mostly the front nine, just, I mean, they were walking down the side of mountains on, from tee to green and vice versa. It was really incredible to see.
I feel like when it comes to like very hilly or undulated courses, the TV just doesn't do it justice because I mean they do it every year at the Masters at Augusta, and everybody talks about like, oh, the TV doesn't do it justice of how hilly the course is. I just think it's hard to get that on camera, and I'm actually shocked at you going over this course and kind of the area because Baltimore doesn't strike me, or I guess you can say the northern side or the outskirts of Baltimore,
right,
doesn't really strike me as a hilly area.
No. And that's what I think blows a lot of people's minds. Like I was on the bus going into the golf course with a couple, like even like locals, and they were telling a lot of the folks around them that weren't locals, oh man, this course is a tough walk. And like a lot of people are like, really? Like we're in Baltimore. Like how tough of a walk could it be? And I'm telling you this, I got my fair share of steps of well-earned steps up and down the sides of Caves Valley. It was a lot of fun to see. And it's just like, it puts into perspective too, just how, whether you want to admit it or not, how athletic these guys are. They walk this course in the Pro-Am. They walk it for 4 days if they make the cut. And they're still, when Bryson and Patrick Cantlay's case, play 7 more holes or 6 more holes, and they're still out there grinding and not, getting defeated by the golf course. It was a trip to see. And I got to give not only Caves Valley maintenance the credit because the place looked immaculate, but just give the designer of Caves Valley some credit too. Some of the looks on some of these holes are just, they're so grand. You think you're in like a completely different world than just outside of Baltimore.
I think that's just like something that you just love to say. It's kind of like mountain-esque, right? You feel like you're in the hills of like, northern Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania.
And here's what I will say. I think the one drawback about having all of the stands there and all of I think the stands and like the TV towers and everything actually probably did the course some injustice, because I think without all the towers and out all the stands, you could probably look from like the hill above 18 green and see about 12 holes, if not more. So I think the stands took away a lot of the grand views. Now, granted, Caves Valley still put on a show, but just for example, when you're standing at 17T, you should be able to see 18. You should be able to see 10, 11, 16, 15, 15 and 16 coming down. Like there should be at least a 5 or 6 hole view just from that one point alone, let alone other spots on the property. So obviously an incredible course nonetheless, and it still showed out and was incredible views for the TV and in person. But I think, and I would love nothing more than to go back when all these stands are back down and just be able to see the property again and kind of get that contrasting view from what I saw there during the BMW.
Right. That's awesome.
So, I mean, just looking at I highly suggest for anyone who's wondering what we're talking about, go to www.cavesvalley.net, click on their golf link. They've actually got flyovers of every hole without the stands, obviously, for their members and whatnot. So go check that out. I think it's a really cool kind of dive into what the course does look like without stands. So if you were there during the event, you can kind of play on the contrast of what it did and did not look like. Cause I think it's one of the coolest things. And it's one of the greatest golf courses without stands on it too. But speaking of stands and where I was standing for most of the day, I want to talk about this little hidden gem spot right on 15, on the green of 15, headed up to the tee box on 16. I stood there for most of the afternoon because it was just really a hot spot. The players had to cross from 15 green to 16 tee. All the players came through there. They were throwing golf balls and stuff like that to kids that were standing along the ropes. So it was just a really great spot. Got to watch guys like DJ, JT, Lee Westwood, Sebastian Munoz, shout out Boston Scott there, Sergio and Rahm, Brooks and Harold Varner, Kevin Na and his caddy, Kenny Harms, shout out to him. I yelled at Kenny Harms about 4 different times during the day, so I hope he heard us. If he did, we've had him on the podcast before, so maybe he saw me, maybe he didn't, who the heck knows, but he gave me a couple thumbs up, so maybe he was just being nice, maybe he knew who the heck I was, who knows. But it was just such a great spot. players had to hit drivers off that hole. So you got to watch them really play their long game. You got to watch them play their mid to long irons into the green. And then a lot of them were either missing the green just short left or hitting some pretty good shots in. So you got to see the short game on display. And then you got to watch them hit bombs off of par 5, 16th tee. So it was a fun spot to see a lot of the grades come through.
That's awesome. Cause I know I love going to, like, one time I've gone to tournaments where we just stood because we were right against the ropes and they were probably maybe 5 feet from us, no more than that. Tee off on one of the second holes, my dad and I, when we went to a tournament. And then, like, I went to, like, another one, kind of like, you find that one spot, that, like, hidden spot where it's like a couple of holes to where it's just perfect. You're by a green. You got kind of like you want the aspect of, like, all right, I got a green next to me so I can see them kind of get up and down around the greens and make putts. Then, if I look to my other, like, to my right or my left, I got these guys teeing off. And then you're in the middle, and then you look to your other side and you got, like, guys freaking sitting there hitting shots into the green. Like, it's like you get it all and you don't have to move.
It's one of those things where it gives you such an incredible perspective when you've got that much going on, iron game, short game, driver, and to watch these guys within like a 10-minute period hit that many different shots at such a high level. It just gives you such an appreciation for the game and, like, how good those guys truly are. It was definitely, like, if you can find a spot like that on a golf course in a live event, I think it's a no-brainer to post up there for a couple hours.
Yeah, because it's insane, because you see guys hit, like you said, all different types of clubs and all different shots because they're going after that one tiny spot based off of their game plan and their distances and the hole and kind of what they see. Because, like, I saw guys hit anywhere from driver, 3-wood, and to, like, long iron or driving iron. When I was, I think was it Plainfield Country Club up in North Jersey when we went? It was the Barclays at the time, and that's same thing. Like, you just watch these guys roll up, and they were, like, hitting to that specific spot. Like, where do I want to be from my best to have the best opportunity to get closest to the hole for my second shot? It's insane.
Yeah, and it's just like it's wild to me. Sometimes you get it, and then sometimes, like Bethpage, for example, there's not a lot of places that was the last, like, live tournament I went to. Bethpage doesn't have a lot of those spots because the holes are kind of spread out, like from tee to green are kind of really spread out. There's not a lot of spots to make that happen. So some courses have it, some courses don't when you go to watch live events like that. But, man, when you find a little hidden gem spot like that, it's tough to leave. And especially because I was right next to the concessions. And shout out to the BMW and Caves Valley. They had a Caves, I think they called it a Caves Valley. What do they call it? Caves Valley punch or something like that. It was just vodka and peach tea or something like that. Really smooth. May or may not have had 3 or 4 of those during the afternoon. So we were primed up and ready to go for the playoff. And I mean, it was just a blast. So, I stayed on 15 until Bryson and Cantlay came through. Bryson made par. Cantlay had a phenomenal look at birdie, missed it. And then from there, I basically trucked it up to 17T where you could hear what was going on 16 green, but you couldn't see it. And then watch the guys tee off on 17. So I pretty much followed them in all the way until 18. And then I stuck it out on 18T because I figured 18T was pretty close to the exit. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just hang out here. Bryson's going to go up there, knock it in for par and win, right? Wrong. Obviously, Cantlay cans that birdie to even it up, and then we go to a playoff. So little did I know, I was already prepped for myself because they were coming back down 18 for a playoff to be in a perfect spot to watch these guys play. And then right across from 18T was a massive screen that was showing what was happening up above. So the only kicker was it was on about a 5-second delay. So you could hear the screams from up at 18 green before you could see what was happening on the big screen. So it was a pretty dynamic setting. I will say this: every time Cantlay and DeChambeau rode the carts back from 18 green to 18 tee, they got like a hero's ovation. It was incredible. From the stands that were wrapping basically 90 yards down the fairway is where the stands wrapped down to, all the way back to the tee. Fans were just raising all kinds of hell, which was the greatest thing. They were like super appreciative of it. It was definitely one of the coolest settings. It was the most I've ever ran on a professional golf tournament in my life.
Oh, you ran. You were one of the few to
Oh,
keep
buddy,
the feet
I wasn't
moving.
I wasn't one of the few. I was one of the many, the proud,
Yeah,
the famous.
that's yeah, right.
So
That's
I ran from 18T when they took it to 17 all the way around 18T and the stands they had set up and up into the grandstands behind 17T. Now, I don't want to get canceled for this, but here's what happened. When they were done 17, all the staff that was basically manning the suites that were behind 17T and around, 17 green and around 17 green had left. They weren't expecting it to go to a playoff. So by the time they wrapped the playoff back to 17, no one was there checking wristbands. No one was there checking like media badges or like, suite badges or whatever. So it was a free for all. As fast as you could run to fill the seats around the 17 green, by the time the playoff got there, you could get there. So I sat in the suite, I think box H, shout out box H and whoever occupied that for the rest of the week. I had a great view of 17 playoff. And then when they were done 17 and went back to 18 because they tied again, I ran back from 18. So I made laps from 17 green to 18T and back and forth until it was over.
looks like you burned off those few cocktails you had earlier in the day.
Burn them off real quick. I was as sober as you could be walking out of there. That was for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, because that was, again, from like my viewpoint, that was a very electric playoff. I mean, it was just insane. Just the way, like you were saying, people running all over the place, trying to get the best view they possibly can. Because I mean, it was. I mean, I'm trying to like compare it to another sport as to like how I can feel like a certain like championship. It almost kind of reminded me of the Super Bowl with the Eagles and the Patriots, where the game was just constantly back and forth. It was just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, back and forth. And that's how it felt, because it just, Bryson either got himself into trouble or Cantlay got himself into trouble, or when someone needed to make a putt, they did. And like my favorite hole out of all that is Bryson hits a shot on that par 3, sticks it close. Then Cantlay hits it, or how vice versa, sticks it even closer.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this would be great. This will end it. Someone will make birdie, someone will make par, game over. Like, nah, we're just going to have tap and pars and move on to the next hole.
You know what the craziest thing for me was? And this was, I think, my favorite part of the entire playoff. When Bryson's back was against the ropes after he hits that ball in the water, takes the drop, and then stuffs it.
Yes.
Absolutely stuffs it to like 3 feet.
When he sliced that one off the tee, I said, that's it. That's over.
Yep. You and everyone else. I can't tell you how many people probably walked out of the gates and regretted it and were trying to run back in because of what happened. There were so many people that were directly around that 18T that I watched go right out the gates from 18T and didn't even watch him hit that approach shot.
Yeah. I mean, and that, I feel like the two biggest shots right there were on the first playoff hole, where Cantlay had that like very touchy shot because he pulled it and Bryson was sitting pretty, and this third shot in that Bryson had due to the penalty of hitting into the water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those guys just, and the best thing Cantlay said, he goes, "This is like another shot, another day for me." Like that guy was just ice in his veins.
Well, and it was wild to me because yes, he had ice in his veins, but not the first playoff hole and not even the second. He struggled to hit the green. He pulled both approach shots and kind of got lucky with the second approach shot that it bounced off that hill and kind of, wound up towards the center. He looked nervous early, which, the fact that he got through the first two were wild to me. Like he got through the first 2 holes And then it was game on from there. It seemed like after he got through 18 and 18, and then they both made it through 17 again, his nerves calmed down and he kind of found his zone after that.
Yeah, and I think like what the coolest thing about that playoff and like what you were saying like before we kind of went on was the fact that Bryson used his biggest advantage, which was the driver,
Mm-hmm.
and Cantlay used his biggest advantage, which was his irons. And it was funny because we were talking how you were saying Bryson was just absolutely pounding the ball,
Yep.
and then Cantlay, I was like, it seemed like his swing just seemed a little different because he was, like I said, he was taking kind of conservative shots off the tee to make sure he found that fairway.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and I want to go back to talking about where I stood on 15 and seeing the perspective. There was a big monitor on the right-hand side that was showing you how far players had in on 15 coming into their approach shots. When Cantlay and Bryson came through, this was just absolutely wild to me. Cantlay had 207 to play into 15 green. Bryson had 154. I mean, the difference was incredible. And it showed in the playoff too. When Bryson hit the fairway, he was way up on the hill on 18 compared to where Cantlay was. Cantlay couldn't carry no matter how hard he hit it. Now, like you and I talked about, was he trying to hit a fairway finder? Maybe. But I think even when he pounded the first one, it didn't get past that first bunker on the left. Bryson was flying that bunker easily every time. Even the ball he hit way right, like out of into the water, was way past the kind of curvature in the fairway. He was bombing it past Cantlay.
That too, and the crazy thing is like, going back to like the 207, 154,
Mm-hmm.
To some that may be a club or two difference. The way Bryson's putting his speed on and the way his clubs are built, it's probably like a 3-4 club difference between the two of them.
Absolutely. I can't imagine
I mean,
like in that scenario when it was 207 and 154, 154, Bryson had to hit some sort of wedge there, right? Like,
absolutely, yeah. That's what I'm
and
saying.
then
And
at
Cantlay probably had a
207,
6 iron.
at 207, Cantlay's hitting maybe a six, maybe a five. At
Yeah.
being 5'10, I don't know what clubs he's hitting. My 5'10 ass is hitting a 5 iron. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a plus handicap, so I'm a little bit closer, I'd like to think, to Cantlay's ball speed and range there. I'd hit 5 iron there all day, but maybe he hit six. I'm not sure. But either way, 6 iron versus wedge is huge advantage, Bryson.
Huge. And
So it's
that's
wild to
what kind
me.
of like, yeah, that's what kind of blew my mind. And I was kind of like thinking about that a little bit. It's like, yeah, okay. I was like, yeah, you're saying he's bombing the ball, but he was like maybe like 50, so like 50 yards ahead of him,
Mm-hmm.
which is like you think like, all right, it's not that big of a deal. But then you go back to like knowing like their games and the club differences is what their selection is and what they're pulling. That's a huge difference.
Absolutely. And what it boils down to me is, and where obviously that the age old saying, drive for show, putt for dough, worked in Cantlay's favor this weekend. He
Yeah,
didn't
it
hit
did.
it the farthest by any means, but Bryson simply could not make a putt. And I had to laugh. Graham McDowell tweeted out, the USGA and R&A might never consider banning arm lock putters after watching Bryson's putting display at the BMW.
Dude, honestly, I think like he's right because thinking about it, I think you have more chances to pull putts because if you're arm locking and it's just your left arm from a right-handed golfer and you push and that arm moves slightly, that whole thing's going with you.
Absolutely. And it blows my mind, right? Because it's one of two perspectives. Bernhard Langer went to the arm lock and just putted an absolute, like, out of his mind, like ballistic. And then in the absolute, like, other side of things, Bryson goes to the arm lock and can't putt worth a lick. So it's interesting. Do I think Bryson's going to always struggle with putting? No, I think he'll figure it out. But it wasn't with him this week at the BMW.
I think I think he's so analytical, he'll figure out what he needs to do. I think it just comes down again, I'll say it again. I mean, I've kind of pointed you in that direction. It's just straight mental. I think it just comes to even like me and even everybody with multiple putters. If you have like more than three putters, you have some on the mental game side of things when it comes to putting,
Mm-hmm.
you might you might have some struggles.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get rid of one. That way I'm not in that
Then
three
you're
putter
good.
gang.
And then three putters or more, you don't have the mental game for your putting. You knock it down to two, you're set. You're draining putts.
All right. Well, hopefully I can get rid of that third putter by September 4th because I'm going to be teeing it up in the Glover Park Tour national event
Yes.
that's happening on their scoring app, guys. Go check it out. Glover Park Tour has released an app. So go into your app store, search Glover Park Tour, and sign up. It's really something that Dante, I don't think exists in the golf world right now, which is why we think it's so cool and why we want you to be a part of it. We're going to be a part of it. Sign up so you can play golf this weekend with your buddies at your home course and stack up on a national leaderboard for prizes. Guys, they're giving away, I think, over like $1,000 worth of prizes. They're giving away Sonos speakers. They're giving away gift cards. They're giving away all kinds of stuff. So go first, follow Glover Park Tour on Instagram at Glover Park Tour, and then go sign up for their app in the App Store, Glover Park Tour, national scoring app. You can sign up and play.
It's Glover Park Golf. If you go to the App Store, type in Glover Park Golf, and it'll pop right up. That thing is sick. I had a chat with Steve Panas from the Philadelphia sector. We had a great chat trying to just get an idea of how we can like work together in the future, and also kind of him just explaining it. And damn, this is sick. It's basically taking kind of tournament golf and the virtual world and mixing it together. And the coolest thing is like, well, how can you do that? Well, they've come up with some type of algorithm or some type of math behind it to where if you're playing, we can play in a tournament, right? That's on, say, September 4th. There really is no set destination as to or where the host or where the event's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton, you're going to play in it. I'm going to play in it. I'm going to play Running Deer, and you're going to play Glen Riddle. They've come up with a calculation as soon as you input your score based on the tees, based on the rating, based on where and this and that, like all the ins and outs that it goes to, like calculating, I guess you can say, the average of your score and what weighs heavier than the other. That all comes into effect, and then it'll end up basically picking a winner throughout the thing. And I think that's like just, I mean, what more can it be in 2021 is like how we can play golf, play competitive golf without having the struggle of being able, oh, well, I'm going to close this course down to, 50 to 100 players, and they all have to travel all over the country and all over the world just to play in this one event.
Yeah, I think this brings together all the great opportunities of what, we joke around about COVID bringing some of the best out of some things. I think COVID brought this to fruition because everyone was stuck in their own like little bubbles and wanting to play competitive golf, right? You're able to do that now cross country at your home course. You don't have to travel. You don't got to find a hotel. You don't have to book up with some buddies to make the trip cheaper. You don't got to go spend groceries. You can play your home course. You can play any course around your area. Just log it in and the algorithm takes care of the rest. As long as it's a par 70 or above, you earn points. Simple as that. You're registered into the national tournament at that point.
And if you want to, for the national tournament, if you've had scores posted, you can enter in past scores and they will go towards the point system and in hopes for you to get into the national tournaments that they have in the future, in which that will be, actual physical in-person tournaments that can lead to even bigger prizes.
Yeah. And I think that the cool part about it is it's free to sign up. There's no like membership fee. There's no pay this monthly to be registered. It's free to sign up. Just go play. And the grand scheme of this thing, guys, is, which I think is so cool, that, obviously September 4th is kind of their first big go at having this national weekend tournament. But the grand scheme of this thing is to play monthly, to play weekly, and stack up points throughout the year. And the winner of the points race, I guess you could call it, throughout the rest of this year has a chance at winning a round at the 2022 Farmers Insurance Pro-Am. Like, we aren't messing around here anymore. We're talking about going to play with the big boys in a pro-am at Torrey Pines at the Farmers Insurance. You can bring a friend as the caddy. You aren't stuck with some random caddy. You can bring a +1 per se as your caddy out there. You get VIP access to the rest of the tournament. We're talking about some legitimate prizes here that are up for grabs if you go sign up for Glover Park Golf.
Yeah, and that's getting, that's getting yourself into, like, obviously there's you're gonna have, qualifying. There is a qualifier for that. That's an actual in-person tournament. But in order to give yourself a chance, you don't have to worry about having to travel to these destinations and spend all this type of money. You can just go out to your local course, your local muni, or if you belong to a private club, semi-private club, you name it. You go play your weekend round, post that score, get some points, and in hopes that you're in the top, say 25 points leaders, and you're getting an invite to the qualifier to get yourself to win some absolute amazing prizes and chances to play at some, you know, events that you'd probably never thought you'd ever step foot on.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is too, right? Like within the app, which I think is probably the best part of it all, you can interact with other members. You can kind of create groups with other members, chat with other members, create your own profile, and just really interact with people all over the country. So not only is it this golf event where you can actually go play golf, log golf, track your golf, but you can also start to network with other people around the country that are playing in Glover Park Golf. So, guys, like I can't say enough incredible things about it. Go be a part of their first event this weekend. This is their first virtual golf tournament, Saturday, September 4th. Go sign up, Glover Park Golf in the App Store. Code 243594. We'll put this in the link in the bio as well. 243594. You can go follow Glover Park Golf as well as they update you on how to sign up. But go sign up in the App Store. Go be a part of it. Go play your home course. Bring your buddies in. Get them to sign up so you can compete with them. You can compete with us because we're going to go play, and just be a part of this incredible, I would say, network of like-minded amateur golfers that are just playing for the fun of it and adding a little competition to their lives.
Who doesn't love playing golf competition and winning prizes?
Love it. Absolutely love it. And while we're talking about competitive golf, let's talk about the Palm Springs Golf Championship too, Dante. We're going to talk about a couple amateur events here and a couple amateur quote unquote tournaments. Net and gross divisions out in Palm Springs as well. We'll be playing in the gross division this year. This year is going to be incredible because everything's open back up from the COVID restrictions that they dealt with last year. They're looking to fill 60 spots for the gross division and 125 for the net division. So all kinds of opportunity to go out to Palm Springs, California and play it 1 week before the Amex. Dante, how do you think your game's going to stack up against the pros this year?
The pros, I get my ass handed to me. But I can't wait to play it. I can't wait to play it. Probably gonna try and just grind over the winter. The crazy thing is I'm a mutter. We have a nice saying over here in Jersey. We were a bunch of mutters. We'll play in any type of weather, whether it's raining, whether it's just you know a storm just ripped through and there's puddles everywhere, or it's frozen and it just defrosted, or it
Mm-hmm.
snowed and somehow one area of your town didn't get snow and that course is open, even though like your house has like 2 feet of snow. Like you're out playing, like I'm out there playing. I think this year I'm gonna, when it kind of comes towards like the winter, kind of more like, because you know how it is. Surprisingly, we can play no problem comfortably till like mid-November,
Yep.
and then like the second half of November into like December, it's kind of iffy, and then like end of December is kind of like maybe I shouldn't play, but I got the itch, and the weather really ain't too bad. It might be a little wet, it might be a little muddy. I'm gonna go out and play. It might be a little frozen in the morning. It might thaw out a little bit later. So I think I'm gonna focus a little bit more on the fundamental side of things. I've seen, I know how hell of a, I know this course is tough. I know the caliber of player that you and Trent are. I saw the scores last year. They were not good.
Well,
So
I'll tell you this, and this is the craziest thing that I think I experienced. I did not pick up the clubs enough
yes,
in November and December leading up to it.
that was
I had
I
quite the learning curve when I got back out there.
I I, I think when you texted me, you really said, yeah. Um, you were just in shock, and you're like, well, I
And
did
I
not
think the
plan for
craziest
this.
thing too is, right, you talk about being a mudder. I'm the same way. Where we live in the Northeast. We play in mud over the winter. It's just
I
plain
mean,
and simple.
how
And you
did
get
you?
out to Palm Springs where it's just
Yeah,
firm, fast, and you're bringing your nice shoes out and they don't get a speck of dirt on them because there is no mud out there. You're in a completely different environment too.
right. I mean, how? I mean, we went to the same school. We all know how the quote unquote spring season is in at the Marywood days. I mean, spring comes up as we are finishing up our last matches or our last few games, and we're taking finals, and then spring finally arrives.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. It's just two different atmospheres, East Coast golf to West Coast golf. But that's the fun of it. That's why we wanted to go out last year. Was to get that trip away from the cold East Coast and start our year out right? Like it was you and I were kind of saying it's kind of our New Year's celebration. It's like that trip that kicks off the new year of golf season for us, especially on the East Coast. So guys, you can go to fungolfvacations.com to sign up for the Palm Springs Golf Championship. We're working on a coupon code for you all, so stick with us. It's only August. It'll be September 1st when we release this podcast, but we're working on a coupon code for you, so hang tight with us. We'll get you that so you get a little discount on booking it. If you book with a friend, you get an even more discount on the rooms because they're double occupancy, so keep that in mind. Bring a friend. It is going to be an incredible time. There's some great players that play in this event from the gross amateur side of things. There was some UPenn guys out there last year, some Dartmouth guys, so some Ivy League representation. The guy that's won it last year, Cullen, has gone like 4 and 7 under the past couple years. So absolute stick. And you get to play PGA Tour course conditions a week before the pros actually get out there and play for the Amex. So what other reason to go out and just enjoy a full week of golf out in Palm Springs? If you're a glutton for punishment, there's always afternoon games. So you play in the morning, get your lunch, and then go back out and play either the horse race, a little
That's
bit of an
the
alternate
best
shot
way to do it.
scramble. I mean, we're talking golf business trip here. This isn't no this ain't no amateur hour out in Palm Springs.
No,
This is a golf addict's paradise.
this isn't go play your round of golf, go get a nice dinner, and then have like drinks at night and then repeat. This is golf, have some drinks, have some dinner, and then go golf again. And out there, and that's what we talked about before, which unfortunately I missed out last year. But what I saw is, you, I mean, I've seen some photos of you like passed out in a lazy boy. I mean, I'll tell you what, knowing Dalton and some of the trips that we went on, this guy can sleep anywhere, which
Hey,
it's insane.
I earn my
But
sleep.
I I don't know if you earn your sleep. I think you're just so exhausted you just pass out.
That's not too far from the truth. But it's fun.
But
It's like that's
yeah,
that's what I go on golf trips for. I go on golf trips, especially when I'm going across coast, to pick up the clubs in the morning and play as much possible golf as I can from sun up to sundown, and then hit repeat for the entire
well,
time I'm out there. Because that's what I'm going
it,
on the trip for.
yeah, you're spending your money. You're going to like these prime places. It's like, why do I want to go spend all this money to just sleep in and wake up when I can do that at home for free?
Oh,
That's how I've been.
absolutely.
That's how I've been seeing like my vacations. Well, like, and don't get me wrong, a lot of my vacations have been golf vacations, or as they like to say, golfcations. So I make sure I'm getting the best bang for my buck, and then plus some, playing as much golf as I possibly can, exhausting myself to when I'm flying home that Sunday on that red eye, that Saturday night in the Sunday, I'm just toast.
I want to be sleeping the entire way home. That's always the plan.
Yep.
So guys, go check that out. Like I said, there'll be more to come from us as far as Palm Springs Golf Championship related. So be on the lookout for that. Stay up to date with everything from us at Enjoy the Walk. We're kind of revamping our email list. So go subscribe to that at www.enjoythewalkpod.com, as well as following us on Instagram and Twitter at Enjoy the Walk Pod. You guys can check out that as well. So be on the lookout this week as well on our YouTube page, the Royal New Kent full front nine video from Dante and I's trip out there in April. Some funny scenes, some frustrating scenes, and overall just some incredible scenes of Royal New Kent and how incredible that golf course is as well. So
it will be a good video.
It's a gem. Let's just put it that way. You guys will want to check that out. Enjoy the Walk Golf podcast on YouTube. Go subscribe to that as well. That's it from us this week, guys. As always, get out there, carry your clubs, and enjoy the walk. We will have another kind of BMW recap, as we'll have one of their teaching pros on the show here coming up, possibly end of this week, maybe next week. We'll keep it as his own show, but he'll come on and kind of talk us through what it was like behind the scenes at the BMW all weekend long, making friends with tour pros, regripping some tour pros golf clubs, and getting to hang out with one of the top touring instructors on the PGA Tour right now. So he did all of that and more from inside the ropes at the BMW. So we'll get his 2 cents on how fun the week was from his perspective as well, because I know it looked like a hell of a lot of fun from my experience being there. And I know, Dante, it looked like a hell of a tournament when you were watching on TV as well. So excited to dive into that. Dante, any last words? Are we getting out and playing this weekend?
We are. I got some weddings to take care of first. Again, it's that I'm at that age and it's that time of the year. So we got that, and then probably gonna get a nice round in on Labor Day. Enjoy it, playing with some of the guys or our little money matches, but nothing too crazy. But we'll get out there. You?
Probably parents are coming into town, which means Pops is bringing the clubs, which means we'll most likely get out at least once, maybe thrice. We'll see what Mom allows. Mom's the dictator of where Dad plays. Maybe I'll get out more. It might not be always with my dad, but Mom loves her beach time, so we might only get out once or twice, but we'll get out nonetheless. Looking like great weekend after this tropical storm rolls through, so should be great weather for us here on the East Coast.
Probably cool some stuff off. Damn, it's been a hot and humid one.
It's been sticky, absolutely sticky. But yeah, guys, that's it, man. I appreciate everyone who listens. That's what else, actually, real quick. Shout out if you're listening and you shouted out and came up to me when I was at the BMW and said, "Hey, are you Dalton from Enjoy the Walk?" I texted Dante every time it happened. It was incredible. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming up and saying something, because that's one of the coolest things I think that can happen at a tournament like that. When you get someone in your local region that says, "Hey, I know you because I listened to you." It means the world to us, guys. You listeners are the reason we do this. You're the reason why we can keep doing this and keep putting out content. You're our drivers. We don't do this without you guys. So thank you to everyone who came up and said hello. It was incredibly inspiring to us both to say, "Hey, we're actually putting out content that you guys listen to." So
I wasn't even there and I was in awe.
I mean, dude, when I tell you, it was just like, holy shit, we are actually doing stuff that people appreciate, because it wasn't only, "Hey, you're just Dalton from Enjoy the Walk." It was, "Hey, you're the podcast guy, right? Man, I love what you guys are doing. You guys are putting out good work, good messages, this, that, or the other." And it was cool to know that people within the industry and fans of the golf game like what we do, appreciate what we do, and came up to me and said something about it. Cause it takes a little bit of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? It takes an appreciation for what you do for people to come up to you and say something about it. So shout out to you guys. I was not in the realm of remembering your names because there was so much going on. So I apologize. But thank you for listening. Thank you for hopefully subscribing to the podcast if you haven't already. And do me a favor. If you did come up to us, share our podcast, because it would mean the world. That's how we get, the exposure we do is not only Instagram and Facebook, but word of mouth too. So appreciate everyone who listens. Thanks again. And like we said, as always, get out there, carry your clubs, and enjoy the walk and enjoy your Labor Day weekend.
That's the stuff. One shot.